Hi everyone, my name is Lou and I'm the youth worker at St Paul's Church in Oadby.
Hi, my name's Steve, I'm the vicar at St Paul's Church. It's great to be with you this morning.
So usually at this time of year we'd come in and we'd share a little bit about harvest. We're in the season in our church of something called Creation Tide, where we're reflecting on how we look after the earth and all of the people in it, and part of that is celebrating something called harvest. Now we'd usually come in and we'd share maybe some Bible stories that are about times when we've got a lot and the main problem that we've got is how do we give it away and how do we share it. And all that's really, really important and really, really important right here and right now. But it sort of seems that in this season that we've had of lockdown, that actually we can probably connect more with some of the stories around famine that are in the Bible, where things haven't gone the way that we expected, where maybe we're feeling loss, maybe we're sort of struggling with how things have gone and what we're sort of doing with ourselves and how we're going to move forward. And so we thought it'd be really, really important to be reflecting on where we're at and acknowledging where maybe we're feeling a bit bruised and broken, maybe where we feel we need to be refilled or refueled, where we've maybe lost a bit of joy, and how we can give away and help others too. And so Steve and I are going to take us through some reflections around that. Some of you might want to do that in a spiritual way. That might be something that you want to share with God. Some of us might just want to do that in a reflect in our own heads and hearts kind of way. There's no rules to either, and you don't have to have a spiritual or a religious label to do something spiritual. So feel free to do whatever feels most comfortable for you. So we'll share a little bit about each topic and then we'll take a moment to reflect. So the first one that we're starting with is the idea of some of us might be feeling really bruised and broken and scarred from this time. And it's really, really important that we're not ashamed to admit or acknowledge that actually that can be the beginning of some of our healing. But it's been a really difficult time. Maybe we've experienced anxiety or loss or grief or poverty or loneliness or all sorts of things that I haven't even mentioned. And actually it's really important that we acknowledge those feelings, we acknowledge the effect that some of that has had on us. A beautiful thing that I love about Japanese culture is that when they break something that is of value, they don't just throw it away thinking, well, that's useless now. They piece it back together with liquid gold. And instead of it being less valuable than it was before, it's actually more valuable, it's more beautiful, and it's more unique than it ever was before, because it bears the story of what has happened. It tells the story of what has happened. And that's kind of how I see a lot of my own spiritual life and life in general. Actually, the scars that we carry aren't things that we have to be ashamed of. They're things that we celebrate, a time that we've come through something difficult and come out of the other side. And a Bible passage that I really love and have been reflecting on a lot is in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verses 7 to 9, and it says this: "We now have this light shining in our hearts, but we ourselves are like fragile clay jars containing this treasure. This makes it clear that our great power is from God and not from ourselves. We're pressed on every side by troubles, but we're not crushed. We're perplexed, but we're not driven to despair. We're hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We get knocked down, but we're not destroyed." For me, these verses speak a lot of the beauty in our scars and the power in our resilience. And so none of us need to feel weak or ashamed for the brokenness, for the scars and for the bruises that we're feeling, but that actually sometimes they are the making of us. And so we want to take some time to reflect on that. You might want to close your eyes, or you might want to reflect on the picture and the question that's going to come up on the screen. But wherever we are, let's just take some time to reflect, whether that's in a spiritual way or just within our heads and our hearts for ourselves.
Lockdown has been a vastly different experience for different people. For some it's been a time to stop, and for others it's been as busy as ever. In the early days, things needed to change and adapt very quickly. Many people rose to new challenges, discovered new ways of doing things, and thrived on the experience. But as lockdown continued and the novelty wore off, so many people began to feel tired and drained. Leaders were running on fumes at the same time as having to adjust to a new normal and to try to figure out how to do various things. People noticed the loss of social contact and regular activity that we had taken for granted. With so much of what we knew having been stripped away, many were left feeling empty. When it is not possible to do the things we like, the things we enjoy, the things that give us life and meaning and purpose, we feel empty. When we are not able to do those things that energize us and give us life, how do we refuel? I love these couple of verses from the Bible that encourage all who have a faith in God to come to Him. Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Those verses remind me that God does not expect more of me than I can do.
So our third reflection is around maybe where we're feeling we're lacking in joy in life. Maybe we're not struggling with feeling broken or bruised or scarred. Maybe we don't even need sort of refilling and refueling, but we sort of feel like we've lost the fun out of life, we've lost the colour out of life, that maybe we've not lost our energy or our motivation, but we've kind of lost our spark. We've kind of lost those moments of belly laughs and great fun with people. There's something that's dampened inside of us. And sometimes joy feels like a bit of a luxury, something that in the middle of a pandemic we can't really expect or ask for. But in a Bible passage in the book called Nehemiah, there is the story where they are rebuilding the city walls. So the city itself is the same, but they're rebuilding the boundaries that are around it. They're rebuilding the places and where the lines are and where the lines are drawn. And there's probably something within that we can really connect with in this time of pandemic and working out where are our new walls. But ultimately rebuilding new walls around a whole city, it's a lot of hard work. You know, it's not an easy task. And so it's not something that you think, well, you know, there's no time for joy and fun in this time when we're rebuilding these walls, when it's really, really important, the work that we're doing. And yet in Nehemiah chapter 8 verse 10, Nehemiah says to all the workers who are working really hard, who are flat out, who are exhausted, he says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. Now, usually when I used to read that, I used to think Nehemiah is probably one of those people that's going to really irritate me. You know, I'm busy being busy, I'm tired, don't tell me to cheer up, just leave me alone and let me be. But actually what he's trying to say is that actually joy isn't a luxury. Joy can give us strength. Joy can give us what we need to keep going forward, to face what is ahead of us and to keep doing that hard work that needs to be done. And so I think it's really important that we can prioritise joy where we can, that actually taking those moments of joy, we don't need to feel guilty about. Actually, some of that is going to give us the strength that we need to move forward. So we're going to take some time to reflect on this idea. So feel free to close your eyes and feel free to connect and reflect in whichever way you feel comfortable. How can we infuse and inject some joy into our lives?
Or it may be that you don't identify with the things that we've shared this morning. Some people have really flourished over the last 6 months. For them, it was a good time. It was much needed, and it gave a real opportunity to reflect on life and to reset. And if this time has been a gift for you, and if you've learnt from it, then think how you can be sharing its impact on you with others. But remember that this time has impacted all of us differently. So I encourage you to be really kind and gracious with each other. Be generous in our responses to one another and be willing to give help, support and encouragement to each other. There are a number of passages in the Bible that use the phrase one another at the end of them. They tell us to love one another, to serve one another, to be gentle with one another, to forgive one another, to reassure one another, to encourage one another, to build one another up. If this has been a good time for you, how can you be generous with that? And how can we care for one another?
So thank you for joining us virtually this week. We think you're doing an amazing job of trying to get back into the rhythm and all that you're doing within school. For both students and staff, you're doing a great job. And even in those places where it's going well, that doesn't mean that it's easy. It's still hard work. And so just really want to encourage you to be kind to yourselves, to take that time to rest, to look after yourselves, to recognise maybe those times when you might be feeling broken or bruised or scarred, where maybe you need a bit of time to refuel and to refill, where maybe you need to be aware or prioritise some time for joy. and maybe where you want to use some of what you have to give back and to look after one another. So wherever you are, take care. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. At St. Paul's, we're praying for you, we're cheering you on, and we're here for you, whatever you need. So do keep in touch and have a good week. And there'll be a few things just after this video to share some of the things we're doing in youth work for young people just like you, that if you want to connect with anything that we're doing, and we've got a variety of things, then we'd love you to join in with us. If we can support you in any way, then we really want to try and do that. So some of that information will be available of what it's about. Check out our social media if you want to know more, and how to contact and how to get involved will all be there as well. So, and then we'll finish with our final reflection slide for anyone that wants to look back at it. And this video will be available on our YouTube channel. If you want to do some of these reflections again at home, at your own pace, in your own time, then they'll be available for you too. But take care, and we really, really hope to see and speak to you soon.